Do you guys find yourself a lot like just carving the shit out of your overheads and like getting rid of like all the low end and all that stuff? Do you guys find yourself doing that? Yeah, some maybe, some not, sometimes. So one of the things like that I've learned over my career is, you know, I used to do that and just try to grab cymbals, but then I can't get the drums to like stick together, if that makes sense. So what I try to do is I EQ the overheads to make it sound like drums. A lot of people get rid of all this stuff down here. I'm adding like shitloads of 100 hertz. So I'll show you kind of what that does. You hear the snare? I mean, this is like no snare, you know what I mean? Like this is one overhead mic, but the snare comes from everywhere. Even on a live record, if it wasn't isolated enough, the guitar or bass amp or the singer, they were all in the same room. Like I've taken snare sounds from guitar mics before, and just how you EQ everything and make it all work together, get it right. I can't stress the overheads making them slam by themselves. So let's go on this adventure together. You hear how it's starting to pop more. Let me get a loop. I'm down here, I'm really trying to find like the balls of the snare, right? Because when you mic a snare, right, and you're this close to a snare, how often are our heads that close to a snare drum, right? So they don't sound like that. They sound more like you're further away, and of course the overheads are further away, so it sounds more like a snare, okay? So I try to get that beef of the snare in these overheads. And then what I did was, if you notice when I turned up right around 3K, the cymbals started to get clanky, right? But the snare started to get more defined. So I turned it up till I heard the clankiness, and then I turned it down till I stopped hearing the clankiness, because that way I'm gonna get a little bit more definition out of the skin of the snare. And then of course, this is just for brightness, right? And then down here, this honky sound, I'll show it again. It's like usually around 800 hertz, somewhere around in this area, I always find something I don't like about overheads. See, even from here to here, this is worse than this. I'll show it again. Do you hear it where it starts to go like, right? So I don't really need that, but I don't need to get rid of all of it, right? Because it's not like killing us. So I'm just scooping a little bit out. And even let's try to do the level match so we don't, you guys know about that little thing, right? Anything louder always sounds better. Doesn't matter if it's better or worse, right? So let's level match it. So we all agree that at least by this meter, it's similar. So I'll keep it in and bypass. You guys hear that frequency now? That, right? So those are the kind of things I try to look for, is these little subtle things that when I kick it in, I'm like, yeah, I did make it better. I didn't make it worse. And you guys can take pictures of all this stuff and go home and replicate exactly this EQ, and it's not gonna be right for your source. Learn from the concepts, but don't do the copy thing. By all means do it so you learn, right? But don't just go, oh, that's how I EQ an overhead, because what if we had overheads that were recorded with like coals, right? The ribbons, right? They're dark as shit. If I put this thing on coals, that's not gonna work. It's gonna be, you know, something way brighter. I'll probably max it out, you know, go 15 dB, and probably a lot of mids, cutting a lot of low mids, because it's already got enough of that shit in there. So, you know, really use your ears.